Welcome back to the vlog. It's Iannarino, and I want to talk about the lost art of closing. A couple weeks ago I did a walkthrough of the first book, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, and I walked through the first half of the book, the intangibles, the mindset, the character traits, the attributes that make you a successful person in any endeavor, including sales. And I got a note from Joe in Boston who said you should do a walkthrough of the other books and you should probably have some way to go through chapter by chapter with people. And Joe, I do. It's called the Facebook Mastermind Coaching Group. I did it for both books, and if you buy the book and you send me the receipt, then I invite you into that group, and there's a video walking through each chapter and taking questions from people who joined the group. And we still have about, I don't know, 3 or 4 more sessions of the Lost Art of Closing to go through. But I want to give him his walkthrough, and I want to share this with you because I think it's important to understand what's in a book, particularly a book like this one. When you write a book and it says closing in the title, people immediately think, oh, it's tie downs. Oh, it's tricks. Oh, it's manipulation. It's sneaky things, and it's got a name like the Ben Franklin close, or the doorknob close, or the alternative of choice, and all of those things. And this book doesn't. It has nothing to do with those old school, high pressure, hard sale tactics, because they don't work and they don't serve you if you want to be consultative and if you want to be a trusted advisor. Instead, you have to be a grown-up, you have to be consultative, you have to be somebody who can help people get results, and you have to treat people in a way that creates trust, that doesn't subtract from trust. So let's walk through some of the chapters. I want to start in the second chapter. I'll skip over some of the philosophy part of this at the beginning, but you have to control the commitments. And the difference between trying to control the commitments and trying to control the outcomes is that to control the outcome, you have to be manipulative, pushy, because to ensure that outcome, you have to tie people down and you have to make sure that you get your way. And if you have to get your way, you're a baby and you're a 2-year-old and you're a bully, and that's not how you get your way. You use other things like influence and character and trust to help people make the right commitments. But you do need to get agreement on the commitments, and there tends to be about 10 of them that we walk through in the book that help you create the trust that allows you to move somebody from their current state to a better future state, or if you're looking at it from your pipeline, from target to closed and executing. So the first thing is you have to control the process. And what makes this so difficult is that for many years, some of us have known to ask for these commitments, and a lot of people don't know to ask for the commitments. So a lot of your clients aren't used to being asked for the commitments that we're going to ask them for in this particular book and with this kind of a methodology. Now, to ask for commitments, there's some rules, and the first rule is you always have to trade value. And you've heard me use this script here before. If you're subscribed to this vlog and you watch it every day, then you know this. The way that people used to ask for the first commitment, the commitment of time, sounded like this. Listen, love to stop by, introduce myself, tell you about my company, share with you our services, and then ask you some questions about you and your company so I get a better understanding of who you are. Okay, fine, we did that for a long time. Still works. Not great, but it still works. But let's take a look at the value prop here. What's the value I'm trading? I'm going to talk about me. That should be interesting. I'm going to talk about my company, which means I'm bringing a slide deck with me to show you our buildings and all of our services and the logos that we won. And then I'm going to ask you the questions that every other salesperson has asked you for decades. That does not sound like a good use of your time. Instead, you have to say something like, listen, meet with me. We're going to have a very high-level conversation about the trends that are going to impact your business and the questions you have to answer over the next 24 months. And even if there's not a next step for me, you're going to have a better understanding of some of the questions you might challenge your management team with so that you can decide what you might need to do to adapt to the changing environment we live in. What do you look like Thursday for a 20-minute meet and greet? That's a different value prop. It says, I know things that you maybe don't know. I have opinions about them that might be different. I have questions that can help you think this through. That is the commitment for time, and that's the first commitment. And if you're going to ask for time, you have to promise to do something with that time that creates value for the other person, not you. If you want to create an opportunity, be other-oriented, not self-oriented. The second commitment we need, after we have that kind of conversation, we need to come back in and explore change. What does this look like for you? What challenges does this present for you? What opportunities does it present for you? How do we think about this? And we have to have a conversation about, does this make sense? And are there things here that you need to address? And once we get to that point and we're doing discovery work, the change here is we've shifted from discovery being about what do I need to learn about you to how do I help you discover something about yourself, namely that you have to change. That's in chapter 5 of the book, The Commitment to Explore. We get to chapter 6 and it is the commitment to change. Salespeople are petrified of this. I don't know why, but at some point you have to ask the question, if these factors are truly impacting your business or are going to, does it make sense to devote the time, the energy, and the financial resources and other resources to make this kind of a change now? And the reason that salespeople resist asking this kind of question is because they're afraid of the answer, no, it doesn't make sense to do this right now. But if it doesn't make sense to do this, you don't want to get all the way through the process, hand over a proposal, and then find out, you know what, we really can't make this change right now. You want to ask this early enough so you get the commitment, look, we're going through this process to get to the better future state so that you can move people to that together through the rest of this process. Let's talk about the next commitment, the commitment to collaborate. If you want to win, you have to tailor your solution for your client, which means you have to collaborate around what is that solution, what's the right answer for you and your team. You have to tailor it and you have to customize it so it fits them specifically, and what you're trying to do is find a way to give them something that they can only say yes to because it fits them so well and they've participated in owning not only the outcome but the solution. There's a whole chapter on that. Chapter 8, the commitment to build consensus. You can't be afraid of bringing in other stakeholders now. And if you're afraid of bringing in other stakeholders, it's that fear of taking action there that causes you to lose deals. Because when you leave them out, then they feel like, okay, they didn't even consider me, or what's going to happen to me now? I'm going to either shut this down or I'm going to resist it in every way that I can. There's a chapter on how to ask to bring in those other stakeholders, how to control that process, and how to deal with it when people are skeptical or afraid of bringing in other stakeholders that you're going to need. At some point you have to talk about money, and this is a non-linear process. It's a methodology. Maybe you have to ask about the investment early to check and make sure somebody can really afford to do what they need to do. But at some point you have to say, this solution looks like it's between $350,000 and $425,000. How's that tracking with you? And what you're trying to find out is if it's right, if the solution's right, if they're making the investment, because you don't want to do this work and then find out when you hand over the solution and you give them your final proposal, they go, oh my gosh, we thought we were talking like 70,000 here and you showed me 275,000. You need to make sure that the solution matches the investment and the investment matches the solution. That's a commitment, you have to make it. You also have to ask people for the commitment to review. Look at this before we hand it over and give you our final proposal. Look at it. Let's make sure it's 100% exactly right. And why would you do anything other than that? And people are going to say, no, just give it to me, we'll get back to you. You have to control the process here and make sure it's right before you hand it over, otherwise you risk losing. And then the commitment to resolve concerns. At the end of a buyer's process, especially if something is strategic, risky, if it's a big deal, if there's a lot of visibility, if the executive leadership's intimately involved in this with you, you have to ask them, what's still on your mind? What concerns do you have? What else do we still need to address before we move forward? Whatever your version of that question is, you have to surface the issues that somebody's having, because otherwise, if they're unresolved, then they can slow the process down, or they can decide, look, we're not really sure about this, we're going to punt this down the road and we'll look at it in 6 months. If that's ever happened to you, it's because you left concerns unresolved. Now, only now, this is the 9th commitment. So we did time, explore, change, collaborate, consensus, invest, review, and resolve. Now you ask for the business. If this is 100% right and you don't need anything else, I'd like to ask you to sign a contract so I can put this in place for you. And that's the 9th commitment. And you're saying to yourself, what is the 10th commitment then? Because I thought that would be last. The 10th commitment is to execute. And sometimes we sell things and the client doesn't do the work on their side. They don't make the changes, they don't hold people accountable. We have to come back in and have another conversation to say, look, this isn't going to work unless we make some changes on your side. We're willing to do what we need to do to help you with this, but I need you to do these things because we're trying to get you the outcome and we're going to need your help with this. And that is the 10th commitment. And there's a few more chapters after that. The book's called The Lost Art of Closing. It's 10 commitments. So this book is for B2B sales professionals. It's for people who want to be consultative. It's for people who want to be a trusted advisor, who are not interested in smarmy, self-oriented tactics or tricks or manipulation or tie downs or anything like that. There are language choices at the end of every chapter, and I walk you through a sample sale from beginning to end, so you get a look at what this sounds like in real life, and you can model what you do directly after this. So pick it up on Amazon or walk into Barnes & Noble, The Lost Art of Closing. When you buy it, email me, anthony@iannarino.com. Let me know you bought the book, and I'll give you the workbook that goes with it, and we'll invite you to the Facebook Mastermind Coaching, and you get a deeper dive into every chapter that way too. Thanks so much for being here. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Share this with your sales manager. Say, look, man, buy us the books. Come on, we'll read them. Or buy it on audiobook at Audible. And then hit subscribe. This is every day.